updates. Good morning, Tobago.
Welcome to Good Morning Tobago on Tobago Updates. Viewers, we are now being joined by the chairman of the Tobago Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program, Mr. Dedan Daniel, as we talk about Hike and Plant 2023, the synopsis. Good morning and welcome to you.
Thank you for having me here. And good morning.
So this weekend, this Saturday just went.
Last Saturday,
Last
yeah,
Saturday, I just
16th.
went. I'm mixing up my days. But yes, last Saturday there was a hike and plant where you went up into the hills in Glamorgan
Yes.
and planted quite a lot of trees and stuff like that up there.
Yes.
So tell me about how did that go?
Well, it went quite spectacular. That is one of the other things you could use to describe that event. We planted about 1,000 trees on that day of varying varieties that served with different functions. We had about 200 volunteers who came, about 100 from Tobago and 100 from Trinidad that came up and plant all those trees. We had some fun along the way. We developed an awareness for the environment. We actually did something to conserve the environment and protect it. It was a really spectacular event.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of trees did you guys plant? I know you said they planted a variety of trees. Right?
So we planted among them pui, the two colors. We planted cedar, mahogany, bahua, and also hog plum.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what was the thinking behind the hog plum?
Well, the hog plum, it serves a particular function. One of the main reason actually is to have the birds stay in the habitat and not come more on land and cause a problem for farmers. So we provided as food source for the birds along that area, so to keep them there. And also some of the other animals like the guti and manico and all those fruit-eating
And when
animals.
you talk about the birds, you're talking specifically about the cockroach.
Yes, oh my God, that is the I don't want to call it a national pest, but giving some challenges to farmers.
I mean, and a lot of things. One of the things that people don't know about the cockroach is that before it became Tobago's national pest, it was actually a bird that existed only in the rainforest.
Yes.
Until 1963.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's around when Flora happened, Hurricane Flora. Yeah. One of the endemic species. I think they also found you could find some in aspect in Venezuela as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So and it was only after the hurricane that it started. It looked for food. And
yes.
Well, we provided food for them.
Yes, indeed, right? And so that incident is one of the incidents that we should be mindful of how damages to the environment could really affect the whole ecosystem around and cause both positive and negative impacts. So we need to be mindful of those things.
So now going forward, are we going to see more of this event?
Well, certainly. One of the nice things about the event we had on the 16th is that the wide participation, and also it was overwhelmingly supported, and there was room for other persons, partly because we only had it on a Saturday, and there were a lot of persons who really wanted to participate on the Sunday. So the next event, we're looking at having it a whole weekend event, a whole lot more trees, and perhaps touch two different parts of the island, the east and the west.
Like what areas in the west are you thinking?
Well, that hasn't been decided as upon yet. We have to do various site visits to make sure that the site that we're choosing is a denuded area and needing of the cover that the plants would provide.
Is there any goal to say like how many trees you would like to have planted in the forest over the next year or so?
Well, so far we set a goal for 3,000. We are about 1,200, so 1,800 to go, right? It's certainly within reach. In fact, in the coming weeks, we're going to be partnering with other organizations like some of the schools to plant trees in different locations on the island. So with that, it should help add to the count, which incidentally, Tobago is one of the places in the Caribbean that is ahead of all the others in terms of its reforestation efforts. On a per capita basis, we lead the Caribbean. So with more trees, we will extend our lead, so to speak.
And then why is it so important for us to engage in such activities?
Well, for the first thing, one thing, and now referring back to what we had the hike and plant on the 16th, is that to create an awareness of the need for environmental conservation. Right? One of the things that was really encouraging on that day is the amount of young persons who were involved. Young people as young as 6 years old, and they're not so young as high in the 70s. Right? They participating in this event. understanding the need to plant trees, the function that they provide in terms of protecting the environment, providing habitat, providing a source of food, not just for humans, but also for animals, right? And so they understand the importance of that. They understand they had some fun along the way. And so that is really important, and it is really good to protect part of the heritage of just Tobago. It's spectacular flora. Yeah.
And when you look at the forest and how it has changed over time, what can you tell us? I mean, from even because I mean we know it's there, it's there.
Yes.
You drive through when you go up on our country runs and things like that. But it has actually changed quite a bit, in recent times. So
Well, human activities, lumbering and illegal lumbering, I should add, is one of the aspects that is affecting it. People indiscriminate burning with slash and burn agriculture, which is something that should not be practiced. All right, no to slash and burn, and indiscriminate bushfires and all this kind of thing, not just for slash and burn, but the impact of man unplanned development is really affecting it, and we need to do what is necessary to bring it back, because it is the vanguard to protect us from a whole sort of different environmental ailments, and also protect our livelihood, provide a source of timber when it's done properly for food, to create that ecological balance that support all life forms, including us humans. So we really need to play a really important role in protect our forests. Is one of our unique heritages. There was a need years ago to protect the rainforest, and that is a need that we are enjoying up to this day. So we need to continue in those efforts to really protect our forests.
And then what about in terms of, some of the other things that we as people can do to even bring awareness to the need to protect our rainforest, and even what we can do to reduce the impact that we have on it?
Well, there are a lot of material all over the world, particularly on the online. You could talk to experts, join environmental organizations like say Environmental Tobago, for example.
Yes.
Go on the website of Tobago Reforestation, which is tobagoreforestation.org. You could be able to find some valuable information there on what you could do, not just in the forested place, but in your own yard, basically, to plant trees, to secure your soil, to provide a habitat, and a beautiful aesthetic environment to enjoy. Yeah.
One of the initiatives that you guys engaged in, I think it was about a year ago, is that of a Breadfruit Tree initiative.
Yes.
What can you tell us about what's going on in that?
Well, how that program progressed, we had the Breadfruit initiative, right? Where we're encouraging persons to plant breadfruit. Is one of those food security crops that is quite versatile, and it could really protect us against hunger, and is a good source of nutrition. And so we did, among other things, partner with the Trees That Feed Foundation out of the United States to bring in a lot of plantlets of breadfruit trees. Those are being matured at the tissue culture lab in Goldsboro, and when they are ready to go in the ground, we're going to be planting them at Indian Walk Estate. Right?
Okay, so you're going to have like a area that is just breadfruit tree.
Yeah, about 5 acres.
5 acres of breadfruit tree.
Yeah.
And what's the plan? Is there like a plan to just have it within our space, or is there a plan to export it?
To turn it more so into value-added products. It's always better to create into value-added. It would be great when you go to KFC or Royal Castle that you could order a cider breadfruit fries.
Yes.
Like in St. Vincent, they actually do that. You could get breadfruit fries in KFC St. Vincent. Would it be a good thing we could have the same thing? So while there might be a market for the primary product, it would be good to develop the agro-processing sector by having these value-added products being made, whether it be chips, whether it be wafers, different little flour, right? Remember the Chief Secretary had mentioned that we'll want to reduce our reliance on wheat flour. So this could be a source of alternative flour. The skin could be used for latex and all this. There's a lot of applications you could get from the breadfruit.
I mean, can you tell me a little bit more about that? Because I don't think people are aware of all of these different things that you can make out of something simple as breadfruit.
Yeah. Well, the skin and parts of what you might peel in the processing process could be used for animal feed, right? The latex in the skin could be used for medical applications. Remember when we was young people, we used to use something we used to call lagly. Kandace might be too young to know what lagly is, but certainly the older folks know lagly. And we used to use it to actually wrap it around a stick and catch birds. It would stick on it, so the latex is what caused that, right? In large quantities, you could have commercial applications, but the uses of the product could be quite diverse. Animal food, human food, cosmetic and pharmaceutical applications. Yeah.
And you know what's funny is that, when when I was growing up and stuff like that, you knew that every home in Tobago would have a breadfruit tree in their
Yes.
yard. That has since changed.
Yes, we have lost a lot of our tree species to development, putting on houses. We build houses with the house taking up the majority of the footprint. And we leave very little space for planting trees around our house to provide a mean of food security. I would like us to go back to a point where we use that good sense, that good common sense, and make sure at least you have a source for food in your own yard that you grow. You'll appreciate it a whole lot more. And it's nutritious, you know that it's not no harmful chemicals have been used on it and that kind of stuff. So it's a good thing to do.
Is there any other trees like that you all are looking to promote within our space?
Not at the moment, but we basically engage in the reforestation efforts with species that are suited for the environment, right? That provide the cover and the shade and the habitat and so on. So it's data driven and it's smart in that sense. So it's not just any kind of thing, but some of the common species that we find when we do our field assessments is like the mahogany and the cedar, the bahua, the pui, and those type of trees. Yeah.
And then, of course, when you mentioned mahogany and things like that, because that also doubles into wood to use for carpentry and joinery and all those
exactly.
things.
So we could really build out an artisan sector, craft and artisan sector by those type of wood. Yeah.
Cool. Has Tobago ever had a history of having like mahogany trees and that sort of thing within its
I'm not certain. I have to consult the experts to find out. I wouldn't be giving a definitive factual answer if I answer that question. Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah. But,
so, like, what are some of the new projects you guys have coming up?
Well, certainly, continue reforestation efforts. We want to make impacts on the environment, social, cultural, and economic impacts by the things that we do with our different cohorts. We want to create a sensitization of the need to plant trees and conserve the soil and do the things that it does. We want to continue our partnership with youth organizations and schools and so on. We should have an initiative with Signal Hill and Goodwood shortly to with the whole Plant a Tree for Peace initiative to support their efforts, right, in those things. And we look forward to partnering with other groups within the society, within the community here in Tobago to advance that cause. It's something that resonates with a lot of groups, and certainly we want to continue that partnership and do the things that are necessary.
It is very interesting at this point in time as we consider the need for more trees within our space. At one point in time, schools would have quite a lot of trees around it. Now they don't.
Yes.
And then now that we're experiencing higher than normal temperatures, those trees are becoming very much needed.
Exactly. I can recall in my primary school days, there was always a lot of trees to go and take shade, the grape trees along Lambro Anglican and the coconut trees and so on. But now, the footprint of most of the schools is concrete and steel, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Even when I look back at my primary school education in Trinidad, in Siparia, and the school I went to, we actually had an orchard. And we were not supposed to go and play in that orchard, but don't worry, we still did as children, right? But there was this big orchard there. It's unfortunately no longer there on the school compound. But I remember there was so many times we went out there as students, and how relaxing that was.
Exactly.
And it was so much under the shade and everything away from the sun. So
one of the things that we would like to see happen is more trees planted in urban areas, right? As you mentioned, the thing about the heat, we all experienced over the last 2 weeks or so, what I will call a heat wave.
Yes.
And that could certainly be mitigated by us planting more trees, right? We continue at reforestation, our effort. We already planted, I said, 1,200 trees. We have 1,008 at least to plant. I want organizations to work with us, to work with other organizations and partner to plant more trees, particularly in urban areas where provide a means for shade. Right, so I think we learned our lessons and we know what we need to do. Right.
Hopefully, we did learn our lesson
So,
with
yeah.
us concerned because when you look at Scarborough is horrible with the heat because
Yeah.
there are no trees.
Yeah, we need more green spaces in Scarborough. We need Scarborough to differentiate itself as one of the capital cities in the which is emerging to be our vision to be the greatest little island on the planet, to differentiate itself from more metropolitan cities by having sufficient green space. I think we undervalue it.
Yes.
And we need to bring it back to a place where it's highly valued because we know the effort that having green spaces has.
And then when it comes to the botanical gardens, because I mean I know that's something that you guys have been working on.
Yes.
Where are we at in bringing that back up to a standard that it used to be before?
Well, there are several initiatives that we hope to implement by the end of this fiscal and into the new fiscal as it relates to the botanics. I'm glad to mention that the Tobago Reforestation and Rehabilitation Program, which is a not-for-profit company actually, we have taken residence in the botanics. We have moved our office from Millshove and we are now resided at the botanic station. So we have a humanized view of what's happening on the botanics. It is our workspace, and we will do the things that are necessary to try to develop that space. So one of the things that is important is about security, changing the monoculture look at the botanics, putting in pollinator zones, and we would have gone through initiative with supported by Shane Bala. Some of the older folks will know Shane had supported. So we're looking at effort to really put in some color and some security and getting people, the community involved in what happens at the botanics. One of the initiatives that was discussed is to restart the Friends of the Botanic Society, right? Where persons would come out and you could have things like, say, Thursday green gyms, where persons will come out and get some exercise and recreation and camaraderie by planting some trees, doing some pruning, general bed support and so on. Get people really involved in it. Yeah.
Is there a plan to even like have in that area just a little what to say, like a nutshell? I can't think of the word right now, but where we have like a good picture of all the varieties of trees and the flora and fauna that we have here in Tobago.
Yes, that is an excellent idea and it's something that is worthy of doing. One of the things I have discovered in what I might want to call crowdsource research is that a lot of persons don't know the names of our native and imported species. So it would be really good to have a collection of native plants and some of the exotics and ornamental plants that we import from time to time. So people know the common names, the botanical names, and some of the uses of those plants. And just by having a space where persons could see that will encourage persons to propagate it in their own homes and in the community and so on. So we will increase our floral diversity in the space in Tobago in general, and there are numerous benefits to be attained from doing that.
At this point in time, is it very much used or the botanical gardens?
Well, as it stands right now, some persons use it for recreation. I would say not enough. The people from the Dar es Spring community use it as their thoroughfare, so to speak. At least twice a day, they are able to soak in the ambience of the botanics, the trees, and so on. So that is a benefit to them. But we will encourage more persons to use the space. The tourist season coming up in November, and we want to encourage our international, particularly cruise ship visitors, to visit the space. We know that it is in need of improvement, but you have to start somewhere. Right?
All right, great.
Right. So I just want to mention a few things about the hike and plant that we do. Just to recap, I want to thank some key persons who made it a resounding success. I would like to thank GA Finishers. I would like to thank the Tobago Kickboxing Federation, the Goldsboro Youth Foundation, the Tobago Heritage Society, the community groups within the Goldsboro area, and in particular corporate groups like TITAL, the Division of Tourism, the Division of Culture, and Caribbean Airlines, right? I would like to big up Caribbean Airlines. Their staff members came out and they really created a kind of vibes and exuberance to the event. But I mentioned the Goldsboro Youth Foundation also providing human support. Ostra and Fraser, right? Mr. Fraser, you're a boss. Thank you for your immense support. And I want to send that next big shout out to Ras. I don't know his real name, but he's referred to as Ras. He was excellent. He provided guide. He made sure that people safe on the event, and he made it a pleasant experience. So big up to Ras, to Mr. Fraser, to Australia, the people in the Goldsboro community for supporting us and making this thing really good. Oh, but certainly last but by no means least, in fact should be first, the Hike and Plant Committee out of Trinidad, who provided a lot of the support, the concept of the Hike and Plant event, innumerable support, and all resources to make this thing happen. It was a success. We rated 9.4 out of 10.
All right, great. I want to thank you so much, Dedan, Daniel, and folks. If you missed out on Hike and Plants, I know there are going to be more opportunities coming up pretty soon, so you're going to want to get involved. All right, so thank you so much for being on with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the opportunity to share information with your viewership.
Certainly. All right, viewers, please don't go anywhere because we got a lot more coming up for you after the break.
Thank you much. Lovely.
To a brand new dawning as the passion start to rise.